brother, uncle, friend, parishioner, and importantly, a national hero. Before we commence the funeral rites this afternoon, just some housekeeping matters. If you have a mobile phone or two, now would be the time to place them on silent. And if you have any incidents or you have need to use the restroom, you may exit through, well, my left, your right, the door on that side next to the choir pew, and go down the stairs. There you can access the restroom. I want to take this opportunity to salute the dignitaries. The commencement of our eulogy. We welcome the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Alan Chasney, the Parliamentary Representative for Vieux-Fort North, Moses Musa Baptiste, the Permanent Secretary and the Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Department of Education, Innovation and Vocational Training, and the Chief Education Officer in that department. We also want to welcome officers of the Education Fraternity and commissioners and counselors of the Diocese of Castries. At this time, we will listen to the eulogy, which will be presented by the brother of the deceased, Mr. Emmanuel Bellas.
Pleasant good afternoon to all. On behalf of the family of Rufus Judge, I want to take this opportunity to express our thanks to all who have offered sympathy and support, as well as to thank all who are attending the service, plus those who would like to be here, but for some reason or another are able to be. Those persons in virtual land, thanks to you as well. We still appreciate the support and offerings of condolences. I want to start that eulogy by wanting to take time to offer an apology. My apology is going to be for anything that I may say that anyone here may find inaccurate or false. I would also like to apologize for not living up to your expectations in terms of what you have been accustomed to hearing as a eulogy. Unlike other eulogies, this one is not going to be a biography. It's not going to tell you much about him. Neither will it be a history lesson on Rufus's family tree. The worst part of that is I am delivering that not by choice, but by dictate. You see, apart from Rufus, I have another brother, Brother B, who is somewhere across here. And I need to say, Brother B is a sooty Wes. You see, he went to visit my brother sometime late last year, and they had a discussion. He later tells me, my brother wants to see me. So you know when big brother tell little brother that bigger brother want to see you, is page all fap and go ahead. You know when I reach, the fellas discussed funeral plans already, and Rufus is telling me that I have to give eulogy. He pama demo, he just did say, someone he just shut my mouth and do what he said. All I had to ask was, so what if I die before you? As if that was the question. So therefore, I had to fulfill that wish, not only to my bigger brother, but also to my godfather, or Pawe, as we all called him. People, you need to understand that Rufus Judge is not only my older brother, but he's also our father's first child. So obviously, he would be older than me. According to his birth certificate and mine, he's almost 20 years older than me. Therefore, I am not sure how truthful is the information that I am going to give to you for about the first 20 years of his life. You see, Rufus came to live with my parents when he was about 7 or 8 years old. And he left home after he got married in 1975. So his first communion, confirmation, wedding were all done while he was still home. Therefore, from 1975 to 2023 is another 48 years that he was not my business. So I can only account for what I know from 1962 to 1975. Anything else I will tell you about him before and after that period must be Eulogy. So if you have a problem with what I have said, then I will give you the contact numbers for the people who gave me the information so you can contact them and deal with them. And based on that short period that I have to deliver, my eulogy is just going to be about 2 minutes long. You see, in today's age, people, regular transportation, it's easy. It's easy to move from Piero to Deriso at any time, day or night. But it does not matter what you have to do. But believe me, when you had to do that 80 years ago, it was no mean feat. Yes, according to my father, Everett Bellas, he used to make it his duty to travel on foot over 80 years ago, in the middle of the night, from Piero to Deriso and back, all because of a lady named Rosanna Jean-Louis, who was known as Odette. But that walking did benefit him, because in 1944, she did give birth to his first son, Rufus Nicholson George. I don't know if the walking continued, but according to him, 2 other kids followed. One who did not survive, and one sister, Elizabeth Mosheri, who passed 4 years ago. And he's quick to tell us that these 3 kids were made 3 consecutive years. Do not ask me how he was walking back and forth and he was ever sleeping during the night. Rufus spent most of his youth days in Beaufort, living with my mom, my dad, and the rest of my siblings. So much so that I have even heard people refer to him as Rufus Bellas, because they were not aware that he was not my mother's son. The story from my father indicated that when my father was living with my mom, and Rufus was about 7 to 8 years, living with his mother, Mom Odette, my father was ordered by my mother to get the child and porter tima maila en villa ou tima maila aller l'école. Well, l'école fini, Rufus Pavier. So portering Rufus to Beaufort Town must have been a positive move, because I grew up knowing Rufus to be an ardent Catholic, a presbytery boy, a regular churchgoer and scout. It's because of the scout troop that he got the name Corporal. His homes were my parents, the presbytery, and the convent on the Belvedere Hill. But that convent is a story by itself, and I must come back to it. Rufus, as far as I know, saw and heard from my parents, was never into trouble. Unlike his 2 younger brothers, he was the good boy, until one day he decided to try out a family tradition. You see, when you grow up in an environment in which the older folks have a certain profession, it tends to influence your direction. My grandfather, Edgar, who lived just on the hill a few feet away, he was a fisherman. He had two sons, my uncle and father obviously. They were both fishermen. So Rufus decided to try his hand at fishing. So he and a deceased friend, Maka Lome no Munkizamo. So he's a deceased friend. They got a boat with no engine and went out on the business. Unfortunately, when he first tried it, he had no permission from home. And as fate had it, he drifted from Beaufort and had everyone crying and searching for him until he was located in the night in Labrie. Monsieur, well, after my parents were done with him and his backside, up to now, I still don't know if he could swim, because that was it for him for going by the beach. I suspect it's the result of that flogging that turned our neighbor, Mr. Sonny, who molded him into a mason, making blocks and doing other concrete works. One thing I can always remember, every job that he did with Sonny, there was always the signature mark etched somewhere in the works. Rufus and Sonny, never Sonny and Rufus. That masonry trade served him well, because when he went over to St. Croix for a couple of years, he used that trade to make a few cents. But I must give his St. Croix trip credit for me being able to understand Patois properly and translate to English. Because when my parents had to respond to his letters and Brother B was not there, I had to write the letters, and everything that they said was in Patois. The very same parents who did not want us speaking Patois in the house. Coming to think of it, now I understand why he went to St. Croix. Because it's after he came from St. Croix, he got married. Now back to the convent. They normally say that if you are between the presbytery and the convent, I hope Father is not there yet. Oh, he's not there. If you are between the presbytery and the convent, that certain good things does happen. So for Rufus, it did happen. Because I know for certain that's where he found his wife, Marina, at the convent. And in case you're thinking, no. She was not preparing to be a nun. Don't get any false ideas. I think she was doing domestic work here. So I want to tell Giannetti, Swihat, Roll, and Gus, just remember that your dad was regular at the presbytery and your mom was at the convent. So take stock. From his wedding until his death, which spanned 48 years, all that time was spent in Peru. His life was given to the community, where he was integrally involved in its community development, in which he served as chairperson of the development committee. It is my understanding that he was instrumental in a number of facilities coming to Peru. Among them include the preschool, then the combined school, playing field, street lamps, bus shelters, among other things. It was even suggested that he was the politician's politician. That is why he was able to get some things for the community. So much of his life was given to the community that it was only fitting that he was awarded the St. Lucia Le Piton Medal Silver for long and meritorious service in the field of community development. According to the citation, I quote, Rufus has always been actively involved in the growth and development of the community of Fierro. His love for that community has been unwavering. It was under his chairmanship of the Fierro Development Committee that first a preschool and later the Fierro Combined School was established. It was a long battle on both occasions, but Mr. George's steadfastness won him the day. In 1986, the Piero Combined School welcomed its first cohort of students. 25 years later, the school presented him with an award for lobbying for and commencing the construction of the Piero School. End quote. My research, however, indicated that it was a strange and intriguing occurrence that resulted in the establishment of the school. The information that I received indicated that on a certain day, about 3 students from Piero were seen in town by the Book Nook area sharing a book. The lady who saw them had a conversation with them because she realized that they were late. They indicated that they had missed breakfast because the bus would not wait for them, so they had to find something to eat. So she took them to her home, prepared breakfast, and directed someone to take them to school. But she made sure that she called the principal of the school, Mr. Raymond George, and explained the situation to make sure that they were not punished for being late. That lady, who is now deceased, was Mama Phil. A few weeks later, Rufus was just chastised, this time by Miss Billy, Mama Phil's daughter, for taking some children from Piero to school late. Included in that group were some of the same ones that her mom had taken care of. He then indicated that the students were late because of a vehicular accident. The Piero situation occupied their thoughts for some time until Miss Billy, Inez James, who lived in Piero at that time, and Rufus came to the realization that Piero was growing and that a school in Piero was becoming a necessity. As chairperson of the Piero committee, a number of mobilization meetings were held and numerous letters were written to the Education Ministry explaining the plight of the Piero students traveling to and from Beaufort to school. Alas, the pleas did not fall on deaf ears, as at 30th July 1985, a favorable response came from the then Prime Minister, deceased Honorable John Compton, indicating that a site had been located in Opico and a Venezuelan company doing some road works in Beaufort would make a couple of units available. The visit to Mr. Diaz, the Venezuelan contractor, also included Miss Billy, Inez James, and the 2 parish priests, Father John and Father Vrino. That discussion resulted in the establishment of the Piero Combined School in 1986. Not only was the school his baby, but also the church. He was what we all call a wavet l'église. That is why it is fitting that his funeral ceremony be held at the Piero Church. For that kind of upbringing and community involvement, credit must also go to one of his mentors, Father Justin Barthelemy. His life, as I know it, was simple, without many secrets that I know of. A devoted family man, a committed community activist, a farmer, and one dedicated to task. I only remember 2 occasions that we bounced heads as adults, and on both occasions, bigger brother yielded to little brother. In 2010, he suffered a stroke, and I paid him a few visits. On one of these visits, while still in recovery, he was contemplating on how he had to go to his garden in a couple of weeks, and he was already looking at a date. The guy could not walk properly as yet. Well, I took that opportunity for the first time in my life at his home to give him his business. The second time was more recent. It could be just about 4 years ago, again at his home. He was explaining to me that he had gone either to the treasury or registry to get some transaction done. And he was told that he has the wrong surname and it should be changed. And he was contemplating getting it changed. That is when he was 75 years. Well, I better leave that alone because I tell you there were 2 occasions. Rufus gave his life to the community and lived for his family. During the last year or so, he did all he could to put things in place for the inevitable. He indicated that what he wanted done when his maker called him. One brother to do the first reading and the other the eulogy. The other matters I know he discussed with the family.